If you look over there in the middle of the field where the truck is backing up, that's where we shot most of the fight scenes for the 2 days. I think it was 2 days, about 2 days we shot the fight scenes here with Jet. And then we pretty much used this whole field. And then over there is where the gang hideout was, where we were spray painting it. So it's a real famous place in LA, and now they're destroying it. And that's where we set the house on fire. I started training in martial arts when I was 12, my mother couldn't afford lessons from one school, so each time it was my birthday, my mom would give me money for introductory lessons. So each time it got more, I got more advanced, and I would also, in between my birthdays, I would seek out people who knew stuff, even if they were white belts themselves. We'd train with them, and I would just learn. And I think after my second or third birthday, I was way beyond those beginner classes. And then, I would pick different schools, and I learned different systems. That gave me a varied background. And then what happened was, at age 24, I tore my groin muscle, so I retired. I retired from competition, and I got into stand-up comedy. And then I moved out to LA to do stand-up, and then I met Roberta Chow. And she asked me if I would do this movie, who's now Roberta Chin. She asked me if I would do this movie, and at the time I was seeing a chiropractor who was putting my leg back together without surgery. And he was telling me, you should go back and do this. And I was like thinking, I don't know, I'm a stand-up comic now, I'm not a martial artist anymore. And then as I got healthier and healthier, I realized that this was what I was supposed to do. And then once, I remember the day he said, all right, you're healthy now, you can start going back and training 100%. 2 weeks later, I got the part, and it was, if that's not Kismet, I don't know what is.
You sons of bitches, you want to stay, you got paid.
Oh man, we already gave you the blood money, Holmes.
Yeah, we paid everything, man.
How about when we go to People Street, but all the Vietnam sick on the jobs? Holmes, how about when we go to the Chinese restaurants and they won't even give us a dishwashing job? You gotta give us a break, Holmes. They kicked us out of every neighborhood.
I realize now, looking back, that it was Jet's first movie outside of the People's Republic of China. He did those 3 movies, and then this was, I think this was his 4th, and then along with Dragon Fight. And I can't remember which one was first, but what happened was, I remember I learned that that the studio was taking a big gamble on him. It's like, can this martial artist act? And that he had a learning curve as much as I did too, because I had to learn how to take a shot and all these things without, and make him look good, because that was my job as a stuntman. In the beginning, it was kind of tense, because what happened was, I asked Roberta if I could get him to sign this book, the Shaolin Temple book, that had him on it, that he was a star of. And what happened was, she said, yeah, bring it, please bring it. And she called me the night before, are you gonna bring it? Don't forget to bring it. So I brought it, and I said, I'm gonna, she says, did you bring it? I said, yeah. And she says, well, make him, get him to sign it. I said, no, I'll wait till the shoot's over. He goes, no, get him to sign it now. I'm like going, okay, what's going on? So I gave it to him. I go, could you sign it? And he looked at me, and he had this look on his face like he was shocked that I knew who he was. And I said, yeah, man, you're a badass. You're awesome. And he kind of, okay, and he signed it, and he gave it to me. And then some of the cast and crew members looked at it, and they were going, oh my God, in that book, there's a picture of him doing wushu, like I think he was like 5 years old, on the White House lawn. And they're looking at it, was like, oh my God, and I guess the crew, I realized the crew, since it was an American crew, they thought, he's just this, some kung fu guy from China, no big deal. I mean, this is before Jackie made it hot here too. Nobody knew who any of these guys were. The only person they knew was Bruce Lee, so this was what, in 88, I think. So yeah, and then once that the book circulated throughout the whole crew, and they're like going, oh my God, you're this great guy, and then, Jet started feeling good about, started feeling more comfortable, because people just didn't respect, not respect, they just kind of like, yes, all you Asians know kung fu. What was it like working with Jet? It was an honor. It was an honor and a pleasure first, and then it was really interesting because, the guy hits hard, very hard. I've never been hit that hard before in my life. I remember there's this one fight scene that wasn't in the film, where I think I take a bat or something and I go try to sweep his legs out, and he does a full twisting butterfly, and he lays it on the side, lays it in my head, and I took the shot, and it laid me out. My whole left side just went numb, and I thought, all right, this is the end of my life right now. I'm now a paraplegic. I cannot move, and I just and we had to shoot it again because. I think somebody wasn't on time or something like that. I was like, one more time. Oh my God, I don't know if I can last. And it was hard. And then what happened was, there's another time where I had to give Jet a shot. I had to throw a round kick at him, and I said, do you want me to pull it? And the director said, no, full speed, hard. I was like. I used to lay people out with these kicks. And Jet was, he was smaller than me. And I was like and Jet was like, yeah, do it hard. I was like, okay, and then, it came, wham, I hit him and he fell down and then he didn't get up. I was like, oh no. And then Choyak comes at me and he goes, you killed my star. I was like, oh God. And then he got up, Jet gave me thumbs up. He just nodded. I was like, okay. And he goes, don't hit me that hard next time. So like, okay, all right. But then he nailed me. And then when it came his turn, he gave me, that full twisting butterfly. And oh man.
This for you, Chinese cook.
Jet hits really hard. And he also broke his arm during the filming. So the opening scene where I'm the first guy to attack, when I wasn't wearing the cap, he broke my arm. And I remember we were rehearsing it because I went 1, 2. The first time I was like, okay, what's gonna happen is we just rehearsed and I was like, okay, he's just gonna go like this. And I was like going, okay, and I was thinking, okay, he didn't twist when he blocked. I was like, okay, that's gonna be cool, because he blocked with this cast. So okay, and when Choyak yelled action, and I threw it, and when I made contact, he twisted with that cast, and I went, oh God! And the second time, oh my God! This is like taking a rock and just slamming up against my hand. I remember when I saw him in Shaolin Temple, I was like, nobody can move that fast. Nobody can be that good. And then I remember in one of the first fight scenes we shot, I was the first couple guys to get killed. And then he'd move on to the next guy. And I fell down and I had one eye open and I'd watch. And I just couldn't believe what I saw. And I tried not to laugh. And I was here dead. And I was like, oh my God. And then Choyak comes in, cut. Do dead people go, oh my God? No, you're supposed to act dead, And then Jet looked at me and I told him, I said, hey, I'm sorry, man. I just couldn't believe what I just saw with my own eyes. And he's like, okay, that's cool. So he is as good and as fast as what you saw on screen. It's just incredible. How the fights were arranged was there was a main fight choreographer, and I found out it was Brandy Yun from the Yun clan, and he had a group of stuntmen. And what happened was each fighter in that one fight sequence, we had our own stunt guy, and he would show us. They would take us through stunt reaction reaction hits 101, how to react and how to throw the punch instead of going wide instead of keeping in close like you would in with the normal martial arts punch. So we had to learn. That was really hard to learn in the beginning because we're like, it's against everything you've learned as a martial artist. But that's what I learned. It was great. And what happened was we did about 7 to 10 different fight scenes, and unfortunately, if you look at what was edited in that movie, you'll see me dressed up as 2 or 3 different people. You see me with a cap on, then you'll see me without the cap, and I'll be the first guy to get the arm broken. And then, but you'll after that happens, you'll see me as the third guy. I think I've got like a stick or a knife, and I'm coming in at Jet again. So it's like, we shot like 10 different fight scenes. That was real interesting. What was different about having the U.S. crew on a Hong Kong film was they weren't used to the pace. They weren't used to the style of shooting. I realized, and it's kind of I've realized that as I've started coordinating, that I've explained to some directors, if you shoot it like this, or we accent on certain moves, that sometimes they just don't understand because it's not a part of their culture. It's not something that they grew up with, as it was with the Asian culture and the opera and the folk tales and stuff like that. I hope we can change that. I think I think it's changing. After The Matrix, people are understanding that there's more to this. And with Jackie and Jet, making films in the United States, that things are slowly changing. But I don't think it's going to take a little while before, both sides can really understand what each other's doing. One of the most frightening things that ever happened on set was I almost got killed. It was my first time, on the set of a Hong Kong movie, and at the end, it wasn't anything fighting. It was a car stunt. It wasn't really a car stunt. I was supposed to get in a car, but they forgot to take me along, and I almost got killed because I'll explain you what happened. See, at the end, what happened when Jet beats us all up, we all run away into our cars, and the guy who was driving, we were driving these muscle cars that were really, really loud. And the walkie-talkies we had in there, so the director, could yell cut or action, you couldn't hear it because the engines were so loud. And especially when the door was still open and the windows were rolled down, all you could hear was the engine. You couldn't hear them saying when to cut or whatever. So I remember I was the last guy to get beat by Jet. So I remember he dislocated my arm and, messed up my leg. So I had to kind of crawl back. So I was the slowest one. I had to be the last one in because I was the last guy beaten up. So what happened was, as I get into the car, what happens is I'm about to get into the car. The door is right here. I'm about to get in, and the guy he's looking back. Not at me, but he's looking at the rear window, and he starts to back up. So I'm like, oh my God. And there's a guy sitting in the passenger seat. So, and he's freaking out, knowing what's gonna happen. He's like, oh my God. And he's looking at me like, oh man, you're gonna die. So I'm looking at the door, and I'm running alongside the car as he's gunning it. And I'm like, oh God, what am I gonna do? And I started assessing. I'm like going, all right, if I dive over the door, I might get clipped. If I dive under, my head might get clipped. So I said, okay, I need to make a decision. 1 or 2, or just keep running. So I decided I'm just gonna keep running. So that's what I did. And then finally, when they stopped, if you look at this lot, there's, you couldn't go anywhere. It was just the walls. So he stopped. I was like, oh God, I kind of collapsed. First two people were there was Roberta, the producer, and Jet. They were like, they saw it, and they were like, their faces were like going, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like going, I guess, I guess I'm all right. And then, and Joe Hart was back at the camera. He goes, all right, come on, let's do the next shot. So I had to go back and do the same thing again. I was like, oh, and this time the guy made sure I was in the car. So that was scary. I took away a lot from this film. I learned so much on this film that I'm indebted to Roberta and Jet and Joey Hart for giving me the opportunity to work on this film. I learned a lot from this, and now I'm a stunt coordinator, in Hollywood, and a fight choreographer, and I'm also writing a book on the art of fight choreography. It's going to be the first of its kind, in the United in English. So I learned a lot. I unfortunately, once you work in Hong Kong, you really work on these American films. It doesn't match anymore. It's kind of, the energy's not there. They don't understand the emotional content behind each technique, and you have to kind of fudge along and just kind of keep on going with it. So, and I'm hoping this book will change, and make people understand what's involved, in putting together a fight scene.
I came out here to Hong Kong when I was 20, out of college, and I had a contract with Golden Harvest that they signed me. Originally I thought I would be here for a temporary, just maybe for fun, but it ended up being a year, because I signed with Golden Harvest. I signed a 2-year 4-film contract, and I ended up doing all 4 films in 1 year. And then I thought, I have 1 more year before I get my degree, so I thought I'd better not waste it, and I went back to the States, finished it, and then I was more interested in production at that time, so I tried to do as much film production in university, and then I came back to Hong Kong and started going into the behind the scenes, and I've been here since. Hong Kong was a very commercial place, so I'm just thrown into production, not so much filmmaking or anything creative for that matter. But my interest was in creative work, so I followed a lot of, my first couple of films was with Jackie Chan, and so he knew I was interested in production, and so I followed them with the post-production of a couple of the films. I watched them do the dubbing, the editing, and a lot of things like that. So I was exposed to it before, but it's different because in university everyone's more into what you're trying to say. It's not, it's not the craft so much as what you're trying to say. So it's an interesting blend. I think it worked. Yeah.
傻佬，你係陳厚德邊個啊？
唔係佢徒弟咯。乜你識講廣東話㗎？咁頭先你又唔講，我仲以為你係日本婆添。
I knew who Choi Huk was, and I've always respected his work. One of the few directors at the time I really, really respected. And at that time, I had gone back to the States to finish my year of school, so I was outside of Hong Kong already. But they happened to do this film in the States, in LA, where I was, and so. But I still had to do the whole audition casting, and it just worked out that I was still in school but working on this film with him, and I thought, wow, what a great opportunity.
Hello, officer.
Is there a problem here?
No.
Would you mind telling me what you're doing?
We just got married today. Yeah.
Is that right?
Honey.
He actually gave me a lot of room, which almost was too much room for me at that time. I didn't really know how to control that. But his style was so different. He would leave the camera running and expect me to come up with something, which I don't think I did enough of. But he worked in a very different way. He was very experimental with this film, and this was a very experimental film in general. The whole style, the whole concept was very different. He tried to do something different, and that's why it was controversial. But he's such a difficult person, and which made it interesting to work with, because not very many people are like him. He's in his own little world. Again, I was back in university, so I was in the same mode of challenging. So of course I would challenge him. He likes that though. Choi Hak is a person who likes people who challenge him, and so I would bring to him my student work, my little 8mm film, and he would look at it and he would critique it, and he liked that. He liked nurturing young people to do creative things. During the whole filming, we would have this little game where we draw pictures where I start a picture like a shape and he would turn the picture into a story, or he would do it and I would do it back. So we'd do this ongoing. And, he's just a very interesting person to work with.
睇路啊！睇後邊添啊！喂，用鏡睇啊！唔好睇得咁近啦，淨係睇自己，睇前面。
I enjoyed that part, but again, without enough guidance with it, I didn't think it worked for me, because Choi Hak works in a way where he alone knows what he wants, and he doesn't express that very well. People who work around him have a very difficult time communicating with him, because sometimes he's just so domineering. He says exactly what he wants, but then he won't really respect other people's opinions so much, because he knows what exactly, and he lets you explore, but it's not easy to work with him. What Choi Hak did was he brought his own stunt team over, and yet we worked with an American crew. And so you have two worlds coming together for production, and that's probably what made it very difficult for everyone, because they're very different. Hong Kong people are known to just able to change things on a note, whereas American standard, it's 5 o'clock, we have to wrap. And so it was very interesting to watch the stuntmen work with the crew, because of the communication and the difference, but then they were trying together. But there are a lot of difficult, funny odd moments. I was caught in between, because I was very American, and yet I communicated with all the stuntmen. And so like the crew would be throwing football around during break time, but the stuntmen would be just sitting there and maybe playing cards or something. So they didn't really blend in so well. But I did get along with both sides very well. I mean, I still bump into a stuntman recently, and he remembers those good old days when we were there, and it's nice to be able to communicate with both sides.
What's going on in here?
唔准打！
乜又係你啊？你入呢度犯法嘅傻佬！
我點解唔翻得嚟呢度啊？揾警察拉我啊 ！Stupid！
It was hard to communicate with Jet. Yeah. He didn't speak to me so much. He was always on the set. He was very much a part of the team. He was there when I auditioned. He was there everywhere, but he wasn't really. I felt he was more of the Chinese type who didn't associate with the women so much. I don't know. Or maybe he was just not in his place. It was, he'd just gone to the States at that time. So I think he just spoke to me in Mandarin and I spoke in Cantonese. He understood what I was saying and I understood what he was saying. That's how it worked.
阿妹，
快啲落嚟啊！
Jet did that himself. I remember that, because he dented the car, and it was the producer's daughter's car. It was sitting in there. No, it wasn't scary. I knew that it wasn't really a dangerous thing. It was just exciting, I guess.
Hey, butthead! You taught these guys kung fu? Hey, you guys are like
Yun Hua is a very sweet person to work with. a lot of people don't know he was Bruce Lee's stuntman way back when. So he's been around for a long time, and he has the technique, the background, the craft that people don't know. He's just so underrated because he doesn't have the star, quality face that the others happen to have. And so he's a very comic, actually. He on the set he would always crack some funny jokes, and he was a real person. He wasn't into himself, which was refreshing, and he was always joking around and doing funny, silly things around there. It was nice.
Please, it's no use. It's okay.
I can't practice anymore.
Everything will be okay. Don't worry. Don't worry.
阿美啊，你話佢聽啊，佢隻腳甩咗臼，我已經同佢駁翻，好快就會好翻㗎啦。你叫佢唔好亂咁喐啊。
師傅你冇事嘛？
冇事。
He says everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry. He's gonna
嘿，
fix
咁
your
都唔
leg,
掂，
alright?
等我嚟啦。
I've always dying to do something more challenging, but that role didn't call for anything active. I was a very passive, frustrated Asian American woman in the film. And I remember one of the main frustrations I had with this role was they wanted me to cut my hair, and I really didn't want to. But he had this image of me, and so he says, well, do you want the role? You have to cut your hair. It was one of those things. So he had his own idea. I don't think I ever was really an actress. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I had the training for it, but filmmaking is what I really want to do. Yeah. I'm not one of those people who can just sit down and listen to someone to tell me what to do. When I did all these films when I was in Hong Kong, I would question everything, which is something they find disrespectful when I'm just trying to figure out something. I would question my set. I did this one film, I'm like, would I live in a place like this based on my character? And they just hated me because I'd just be too opinionated.
Okay, everybody, get your left over your right. Clockwise, 36 times. Okay, let's get that bad feeling out.
All these years I've been in Hong Kong, I've been yearning to do my own film, and I had this story brewing for a few years. It took me 5 years to get it into production since I had the story, which was stimulated from it was inspired by I had a talk show before, and I get a lot of insights into the world of a mistress, because in Hong Kong it's a prominent thing, but it's not talked about because it's just the under the table thing. And I was fascinated and obsessed with this world because I thought, wow, what a sleazy world, and why is it so common here? And my obsession stems from the fact that, what is it like to be the other woman? And it represents a lot of the female status in Hong Kong too, because it still is a prominently male place. And to go inside the world of a female and her sexual thoughts or just feelings of her own body, of other people, which is something very natural, I thought I wanted to explore that a little bit, the psychological realm of the sexual world of a female. And so I chose to use a very different way to explore that. And again, I didn't think whether it was going to be for a Hong Kong audience or for whatever. I just thought it was interesting. I hadn't seen a film that explored a woman's internal world about these things, and so I chose that. After I finished The Mistress, Media Asia and I were working on my second project, which was a kind of a spin-off on a Susie Wong story. And we worked out to the second draft really, and then the producer left. So there's a lot of internal structuring going on, and so it just basically fizzled out. And so I'm waiting for my next time when it's right.
我入京劇學院跟伊志源師傅咧，係我細個嗰陣咧，中意睇嗰啲動作片啊，即係外國人嚟講係action movie 啊，我中意打功夫啦。咁我自細咧就睇完嗰啲戲咧，就喺屋企咧成日咁啊，即係嗰啲屋企啲細佬啊兄弟姊妹成日都俾我打，咁啊返學校又同啲同學打。咁啊，學校同我阿媽講：哇，你個仔好曳啊！成日都睇啲功夫打功夫咁啊！我阿媽話：屋企話，你中意打功夫啊？好，我帶你去學功夫啊！一去就送咗我去伊志源師傅度就學北派。我一學就學咗10年，學完10年功夫之後離開戲劇學院，係跟翻我啲師傅嗰啲咧細叔伯，即係師傅啲兄弟，佢哋以前都係做呢個而家嚟講咩動作指導啊，action director。咁啊，佢帶我哋出去，你冇地方啊，冇地方去做戲，你嚟我度啦。咁啊跟佢哋學，我哋咧漸漸年紀大啦，咁我哋跟佢哋做 stuntman， 即係做武師。就到佢年紀大，我哋武師就變咗去做指導啦，有啲去做指導啦咁樣。我第一次同李小龍合作咧，就係呢個精武門啦。我做一個日本人，咁嗰陣時一個公園咧，入邊有塊牌寫住華人與狗不得進入。咁我係 Japanese， 即係日本人，話得你想入去我帶你入去，你要係我個褲浪捐角，咁我帶你入去。李小龍聽到我砰一踢爛之後，我就做 stuntman 啦，就做呢啲反應。咁李小龍都 OK 啊，佢幾中意我，我做到嗰啲動作。咁佢第二次拍李小龍拍個龍爭虎鬥啦，咁開始咧就。仲有一個 stuntman 嘅同我一齊兩個，咁啊導演啦、李小龍啦兩個一齊睇，揀邊個好咧？兩個揀咗我替佢 ，OK， 咁就喺嗰個龍爭虎鬥入邊咧，我就替佢幾個動作啦，片頭啊同洪金寶打啦，我替佢風過兩個和尚，嗰個我替佢啦，仲有一場係比武啦。嗰個鬼佬叫白鑊啊！佢單咗隻眼，嗰場戲佢捉住李小龍隻腳，佢一揈李小龍，砰一腳，好落地，嗰個由我睇啦。咁之後合作咗呢部戲之後就唔好彩，佢走咗啦。原本佢仲話帶10個我哋呢啲去同佢一齊去荷里活拍戲嘅，點知講咗之後佢就走咗。我記得曾經有一次，我記得係福星高照，咁有個演員咧係做唔到嗰個動作嘅，咁啊洪金寶叫我睇，佢知道你實得嘅，要我咧搭落嗰張台嘅中間，大力得滯，over 嗰張台四方方，中間有一塊大玻璃，周圍係嗰啲係木架框。我頭撞落嗰度，砰！咁就暈咗啦。跟住佢翻嚟抱我，喂叫，哇！我成身都係點講啊？好多電啊！哇！好痛。跟住去醫院照 X 光，睇過呢個頸有冇事，個頭有冇事 ，OK 咯，冇事，好彩。仲有一次就拍古裝片嚟嘅，拉威也飛走嘅。個地底入邊跳出嚟，咁咧嗰套戲叫咩啊？人皮燈籠啊！燈籠咧係用嗰啲竹做嘅，嗰啲中國啲竹做嘅。咁嗰個人做竹咧，就係見到有一個人跳咗出嚟，佢就攞支竹飛過去。咁我替嗰個演員叫咩啊？劉永啊！咁我跳上嚟咧，支竹飛過嚟咧係好快，用威也橡筋。你知嗰啲橡筋咧，潛水人嗰啲魚槍嗰啲橡筋啊！嗰啲橡筋，咁啊走條威也支竹綁喺條威也度，掹橡筋射出去， 我跳，哇到呢度啦，一執插咗呢個背脊後邊，入咗咁多，全部靜晒，冇人出聲，以為我死咗啊，冇得救啊，支竹插咗入去呢度啊，咁靜晒放咗落嚟，原來係 double 位喺後邊插咗呢度，以為呢度入，我話唔好啦，鋸咗佢去醫院，要掹出嚟咧，我唔知會流幾多血，算啦，鋸咗佢同埋支竹一齊去醫院，掹咗出嚟，插咗又係咁多，亂咗5-6針到啦，呢一次。徐克拍呢個《龍行天下》咧，佢係好想拍一個功夫嘅點講啊？功夫世家嘅嗰啲生涯，點樣去美國創一番事業，開武館，而開咗間武館，點樣有人嚟搞亂你個武館，即係點樣去維持喺呢個地方生活咁樣，咁佢係想拍一個咁嘅形式嘅戲。呢個之前咧係徐克佢自己去做咗先嘅，而我哋冇，即係我哋係冇去到去 casting， 係徐克去 casting， 然之後徐克 casting 咗之後咧，就交俾我哋去同佢設計動作咁。我又冇帶成家班、洪家班冇，我即係平時出嚟拍戲咧，有啲人即係識嘅嗰啲 stuntman 咧，都覺得佢哋有幾個 OK 嘅，咁我問佢有冇興趣，有興趣嘅一齊去美國拍一套咁嘅動作片咯。佢美國演員都有佢自己嘅嗰個動作方式，只不過我哋睇咗之後咧，即係同佢合作嗰時咧，大家去研究佢有邊度唔得舒服嘅，我哋 OK 改，做到佢認為佢呢下好嘅，我就用呢下；佢呢下唔好嘅唔用。你仲有咩動作好嘅，就用咩動作。咁大家都配合都算幾好嘅，我同佢哋配合都算幾好。因為嗰啲即係李連杰擅長係嗰啲少林寺嗰啲功夫，但係嗰場戲係現代，即係嗰度係現代嘅。咁我哋要將功夫同現代嘅擺埋一齊。咁有時咧係動作係有少少誇張啦。佢例如跑啊、追車啦嗰啲動作啦、針啦嗰啲，好似徐克拍武俠片佢想要嗰啲，但係同現實嘅環境好似有少少脫節嘅。咁導演要求我哋照樣去做啦 ，set up 威亞啦、針啦、飛啦嗰啲。咁我哋嘅京劇嘅風格咧就係北派，北派咧就係我哋京劇入邊嗰啲動作，而李連杰嗰啲咧係少林寺入邊嗰啲功夫，都係屬於北派嘅。但北派入邊咧有兩派，一係京派，我哋京劇嘅叫做京派，佢嗰啲少林寺咧就係功夫。咁我哋嗰啲咧，大家融合一齊咧，就有少少唔同啦。我哋比較咧，即係翻滾啊嗰啲，佢哋比較長啲，我哋就比較短啲咁咯。衝突係可能係嗰個大家個言語上溝通唔到，係嘛？咁有少少啦，或者動作方面配合唔到，因為嗰個金毛啊 Jet Li 係嘛 Jerry 嗰個金毛，佢係好似係咩啊？空手道啊，唔知咩嘅，佢係嗰啲好似有啲跆拳道啊，係咪？跆拳道咁李連杰係少林，咁少林兩派得有少少唔同嘅，咁或者有少少大家 touch 到嘅，哎呀，即係 sorry 或者李連傑啊Jet sorry 都冇講，咁佢有少少唔開心咯。大家可能係有呢啲誤會咯，呢個問題喺度，即係又經翻譯或者係大家呢個 talking， 大家誤會咗，有少少唔開心。李連傑嚟講，對我嚟講咧，佢個人咧，即係只係合作嗰一部，我都對佢印象點講？我都希望佢喺荷里活發展得好好，而可以帶俾我哋香港啊或者係中國啊啲動作片，可以點樣帶入去荷里活？我都希望有一日都會去到荷里活同佢一齊合作。咁有一場戲係個大廈爆炸，嘣飆出嚟咧，咁我哋搭咗個景咧，喺嗰個高樓天棚嗰度做嘅，即係嗰個位置，嗰個視覺效果咧，好似跌落去啊 ，double 位嚟嘅，唰落去，再接威也唰放落去嘅，咁啊就跌落去嗰個 wide shot，針落去嗰個咧係戴克嘅替身嚟嘅，戴克嘅替身嗱，徐克請個貴嘅 stuntman 戴克有場戲爆炸，咪揸住嗰個消防喉嘅跳落去針落去嘅，嗰個戴克個替身拍嘅，但係請翻嚟好貴。香港比較困難，因為點解地方細，你要拍呢啲場面，可能會驚動嗰啲人，以為發生咩事，會擾亂個治安，同埋你有爆炸或者火啊嗰啲，就驚即係會有傷到其他人就唔好啦。因為地方細，美國地方好大，請嗰啲警察封路。香港地方細，一封路唔得，地方太細，會好亂。有好多時香港政府都唔批你香港冇得拍，困難就喺呢度。美國就好容易。
上次都話咗你㗎啦，成日恃住大隻就亂咁同人打交，今次又俾人打甩咗教啦，睇你下次仲敢唔敢？嗱，忍住痛啊，唔好嗌救命啊
What are you talking about? Will you? Yeah, much better. Good movement in there.
未學過去模仿中醫嗰啲針灸啊嗰啲咧，就落睇書啦，睇啲中醫針灸。我又真係俾中醫喂幫我針灸，咁，即係有啲係針筒，一支筒擺落去，噗咁落去，跟住攞起身咁轉，咁啊睇過啲中醫模仿咗佢哋啲動作咁咯。呢樣咧係你哋睇到，我認為我即係體格好好嘅 keep 得咁好咧，因為生活上點講啊？正常啦，冇咁多夜街，同埋專嗰啲酒啦，飲酒唔好掂咁多酒咯。一酒啊唔可以掂啦，因為我哋打功夫咧飲酒係對身體唔好嘅，同埋呢個 sleep 一定要夠。如果 sleep 唔夠咧，個人好快咧 keep 唔到嚇。因為我哋自細咧打好咗基礎，比一般人咧好好多。因為我哋係5、6歲啊，或者7歲8歲開始練功夫嘅嚇，嗰個基礎咧打得好穩。如果係10幾歲或者18、19歲去學功夫咧，到我咁嘅而家咁嘅年紀冇啦，即係或者去到30、40歲咧，啲功夫就冇嘅，keep 唔到噶啦。